Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC Mura here, and in today's video I'm gonna be talking about the top 5 gimmicks in Street Fighter 5 and how you can counter them and defend yourself against them. A gimmick is pretty much cheese, right? The opponent is trying to cheese you, go for fake techniques per se, and pretty much try to use them to their advantage. Now in this video I will mostly be talking about universal gimmicks that many characters can do. Obviously a lot of characters have character specific ones, but for today I'm keeping it to the more universal options. Starting first with a gimmick that I really despise, and that is dashing into a heavy button, right? How many times have you played against a Nash or a Urian who did something like this, right? Dashed into crouching heavy punch, you try to throw, most likely, and then you'll get counter hit. And the reason that this happens is that you are trying to react with a delay tick to him dashing forward, right? So that's why you get thrown. Now obviously this is annoying. A character like Nash who have really absurd dash, or like Urian, Ed, these characters are the ones who usually go for these kind of tactics the most. Obviously Balrog is really good at this as well. So how do we defend against this, right? First of all, you have to train yourself to react to the dash, right? But what if you can't react? Because it's gonna happen. Sometimes you're gonna be playing online, maybe you can't react. Well, what I like to do is to simply just take the throw. In all honesty, if you can't react, just take the throw, because it's a lot safer of an option than trying to tick. This one is pretty obnoxious, but if you didn't do your homework and already tried to react to the dashes, at least don't take the throw and take the safe option out. So let us now check out the second one, which I do think is almost unavoidable, and at one point or another we have all had to lose because of it. I'm not gonna keep you waiting for a long time, so let's just check it out. It's fabulous, it's magnificent, it can show you the creativity of the opponent and how they can come up with solutions. You love it, you love to see it, right? Whiff something and then mash your EXDB, or mash a button, or mash whatever you want. Some players will mash super. I mean, we all had to deal with it previously, right? Like take a look at the skills, mash into sweep, whatever. I mean, you have seen it, right? And this one can be pretty hard to fight against, because the idea here is that they want to cheese you out, right? Players will do this when they are desperate, or some players that is just their natural playstyle, right? They just don't give a single F and they will just gonna do it. So how do you combat this one? And I think there are two ways. If you're fighting someone who you know does this, you have to keep it in your mind at all times, right? So unfortunately player familiarity will play a factor into this one, but secondly, if the opponent is whiffing something that is so obvious, try to contain yourself, try to compose yourself and fight the urge to whiff punish, right? Or obviously if you're spacing a zone point, you can go for it. So for this sequence with Luke, I can like sweep him, and if I'm like my reactions are on point, I can go for something like this. What I don't want to do is dash, for example, or like try to take my turn with something that is too slow. That is what you don't want to do. So either have your whiff punishment on point or wait, and like I said, unfortunately you will fall to this one if you don't know who you're fighting or are fighting them for the first time. It can catch you by surprise. The third gimmick is a bit of an interesting case for me. You know how in this game some attacks have really weird block stun, where it feels like the block stun is too long, or maybe it's actually too short, and that makes some attacks that are really negative really hard to actually punish on block. One of the examples that I've seen a lot is Zeku and his Hosanto, and this was especially effective before actually Capcom changed it. So what, you know, if you happen to block a Hosanto from young Zeku, notice this, he's -6 on block, right? So this means that he's actually punishable on block, right? You can get a punish on him, but the move have a really weird block stun. Like if you wait until what it looks like it should be, he's actually gonna block, right? and other attacks in the game have this. There are multiple examples for stuff like that. Now the thing about this is, because the opponent knows that the block stun is weird, what are they gonna try to do? Well, they're gonna mash. And unfortunately, when Zico first came out, this was actually a thing, right? I've seen players who were doing stuff like that, acting as if the move was Blossom Block. It was kind of comical, to be honest, and I even had a master player, he's a friend of mine, he was saying, yeah, you know what, like young Zico was onto is Blossom Block. He didn't know the frame data, and he legitimately assumed it was Blossom Block because of how weird the block stun is. So how do you combat this one? There are two ways to do it. The first one is to simply lab these guys. Like, you want to lab these moves that have really weird block stun, like his, like Ken's Heavy Kick Tatsu. Some moves have like really weird block stuns that makes them harder to punish than they should be. So labbing and knowing the window for the punish, this is actually really important, right? It's important to know how to do this. The other one is to simply mash, so you can get it at the earliest possible time, although that is inconsistent. You can get the special moves because of the buffer, but with normals it can be a little bit hard. So a bit of an annoying gimmick. You can, circumvent it with a little bit of practice, but yeah, if you don't know, this can be annoying, obviously. So let's now check out the fourth gimmick, and this one is really subtle and you really have to know the game to actually figure it out. I'm gonna do it and I want to see if you actually will catch it. Now we are gonna be controlling Lucia. Did you notice anything weird with the sequence that you have just seen? If you didn't, then you pretty much don't know about it. If you did, well, there are ways to counter it. The gimmick here is dashing after knocking the opponent down with a V reversal or a V shift. The thing about this is, if the opponent happened to back rise, the forward dash is actually +3 on this knockdown. Like Lucia will be +3 on this knockdown. But if Ryu happen to quick rise, right, this should actually be -2. Right, this applies to V reversals and it applies to V shift as well. So what a lot of players will try to do is knock you down with a V reversal and then dash forward and try to apply their pressure. What you wanna do is you wanna quick rise. If you happen to quick rise, let me show it to you mid screen so that you can take a better look at it. On this dash, Lucia is -2 as you see, right? But if you happen to back rise or back recover, she will be +3 obviously in the corner. She will get the Oki, and this applies to both V shift and to V reversal or knockdown V reversals. This one is very important. It's really subtle, very easy to counter. You just have to keep it in your mind. No need to back rise on a V reversal if the opponent happen to knock you down there with a V shift or V reversal. Really important. The final gimmick is the original Street Fighter V Day 1, which oddly enough have lived until this day, and that is simply going for a -2 situation and going for an EX reversal. This one is really annoying, I'm not gonna lie. It's probably the most obnoxious one on this list, because this is the ones that have some legitimacy to it. It's a legit mix-up for the most part. It's a situation, right? When the opponent have an EX reversal and they have put themselves in a -2 situation, more likely than not, there are a bunch of options that can come into the play. Now, if we're talking specifically about avoiding the EX reversal, what you can do is shimmy them. Go for a back, down back, and this should actually allow you to get out of their throw range. At -2, most characters can't really throw you if you walk back. So say we're talking about a character like Guile. If I'm using Cammy, right, I can walk out of his throw range and shimmy him at the situation. This is actually what I like to do when I'm fighting someone for the first time, right? Just see what is their responses after going for a -2 situations. Some people obviously will like use it like as an kind of an abusable 50-50, some would be a little bit more reserved for it. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is the situation in the round. Can you take this EX reversal? Is it too dangerous? Are you at a life deficit where you kinda have to hold it? A lot to consider in this situation. Unfortunately, like I said, it's a situation, because if you are constantly gonna block or walk back, guess what, he's just gonna then use it as if it is a blossom block attack and keep going with their pressure, which, you know, that can be hard. At this point you will be forced to try to take back your turn. It's an annoying gimmick, it's a very powerful one, and that's why it have lived until this day. Obviously some of these attacks that puts the opponent in the -2 situation can be avoided to begin with, but obviously not every one of them is. So it's kind of a rough, annoying gimmick, but you know, it is what it is, and it is Street Fighter V at the end of the day. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment, it helps the channel so much. I will be leaving a link to the Patreon page, the Discord server page. I will also be leaving a link to the Twitter and Twitch page in the description below. Thank you very much for watching and stay safe.